Welcome to another episode of Stories from WineCountry.com. I'm Pete Swanson, filmmaker from Leicester, Mass.
And I'm Jim Nicas from the Castle Restaurant, also in Leicester, Mass.
So what do we got this week, Jim?
Peter, we've got kind of a funny story of a truly great winemaking family. And this is Piero Mastroberardino and his dad, Antonio. Just a bit of brief history about that family. They're from Campania, which is lower shin, close to the ankle of the boot of Italy. One of the great winemaking families in all of Italy. They're from a region that's very, very lesser known to many people. Because they were the only game in the whole region for well over 200 years. It's only been recently that many other wineries have taken hold of that area. But these people are the maestros. They are the backbone, the beginning of that winemaking. Their grape varieties are significantly different than what we're used to. There's a few of their whites here: the Greco di Tufo, the Fiano d'Avellino, and Fiano and Greco are both grape varieties. Same thing with Valangina, which is another grape variety. The wines are incredibly special. The reds are massive. They take years to mature. Aglianico grape, again, something we're not familiar with as a rule, but just well worth the search. Mastroberardino's family has propagated the thought of keeping the original grape varieties in that area. If you can think of Campania in that area, Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii in that area. I think it was 79 AD that Pompeii was destroyed by Vesuvius, and it's still a factor because the soils and the ash and the lava really do promote the growth of these particular varietals very well. So to get back to the beginning of the story would be that Mastroberardino is popular in this country, but not overly popular. His focus has been on large cities: New York, San Francisco, Chicago, Atlanta. It was just around 4 years ago that he was doing a tasting in Boston, and he has never ever done a dinner in Massachusetts. Well, he was doing a tasting and at one of the big hotels, and trade-in consumers, they would be coming to the table, and so, oh yeah, we know your wine. We had your wine at the castle, and the tasting would be going on 20, 25 minutes, half hour later. Oh, I know your wines well. We had them at the castle. And by the fourth time, Piero, who is ultimately the quintessential gentleman, looked at the salesperson that was driving him around and helping him. He said, Nino, and Nino's a good old friend. He said, what is this, the castle? And Nino looked at him, started laughing, and said, it's a restaurant, and it's one of my accounts. I know the owners well. Piero looked at him and said, we'll go to dinner now. And so Nino called me. They came to dinner, had a wonderful dinner. And the man is truly a gentleman. He would not drink his own wine. He wanted to drink someone else's wine. Show me what else is interesting out there. And he looked at me after a long discussion and said, I'd like to do a dinner. So I'm thinking, well, first dinner in Massachusetts, that's pretty cool. I said, absolutely. I put together a menu in October of that year, 2013. We did the dinner, and it was really a huge success. We could pair younger vintages of his wine with older vintages, because he brought some of the older vintages especially. So we would do a 2011 with a 2006 Greco di Tufo, and the same thing with the Fiano d'Avellino. And with the reds, he brought some of the newer vintages, but I have a fair supply of older vintages in the late 90s, mid to late 70s. So we put together a fantastic dinner highlighting truly ingenious winemaking with really a different quality, a grape that we're not used to, with a personality that was actually one of the highlights of my career.
I remember I was actually at that dinner, and my wife and I, it was just amazing the difference between those young wines and the older wines of the same vintage, just the same varietal.
And it's characteristic of the area, the soil, and the winemaking techniques. They don't make wines that are really easy to drink. I mean, current vintages of some of these wines are 2013, 2014. We're into 2017. These wines just age dramatically and classically. So
what is it about Italian wines that makes them special? Is this kind of typical of Italian wines, or is it different?
No, it's not. I mean, and that's really a great question, because in Campania, the harvest time is significantly different. I mean, if you look at Tuscany, they're harvesting grapes in August into September. In Campania, the whites are being harvested in late October, and the reds are being harvested in November. Between the microclimates in the soil and the grape varieties, they have a longer growing season, and the wines really do react especially to that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so was he pleased with the whole experience?
We're still in contact, but this is a man who is a tremendous winemaker, but a brilliant marketeer too. He was in New York City, Boston, Leicester, go figure, Chicago, San Francisco, back to New York, on to Dubai, back to Campania, off to New Zealand, back to Campania. They do not make a tremendous amount of wine, but they have to keep their market share, because in the I think it was in the 90s, late 90s, mid 90s, the family went through some sort of schism, and now uncles and sisters and they're starting their own wineries in Campania, using the same grapes, same techniques. So Mastroberardino has to be kind of right there and on top of things, and he's done a great job. Like I said, they were the only game in town for hundreds of years. Now I think there's 200 small growers and producers in that same area. So if you're dealing with pretty much the same base and you put 199 more people looking for a piece of that puzzle, it gets to be a little more difficult.
Interesting. So have you been to there? You been to take
I have with my parents early on. I would love to go back, because it is really one of those beautiful parts of Italy that really basically unknown to us as American travelers. But this family fought after World War II. I think it was 1946. They had to decide if they were going with the typical grape varieties that were very popular at that time, Sangiovese or Chardonnay or Merlot, and Antonio, Piero's father, was adamant about keeping the varietals intact that were indigenous to that region. They also went through phylloxera at the same time, which is a devastating root louse that really decimated their production. They went to American rootstocks and with cuttings that survived phylloxera, and were able to kind of regenerate the vineyards. So they had gone through devastation of World War II, phylloxera, and the attitudes of the world at that time, the wine world at that time, changed to typical varietals, and they weathered all those storms and truly are one of the great winemaking families in Italy, which later on we'll kind of touch base with a few other that we've done dinners with and met, and some from all over the world, but Italy to begin with.
Great. Can you tell me a little bit of the characteristics of these varietals?
I certainly can. They have great minerality, and from the soil and from the volcanic lava, and it's a very dense and rich soil. It's like riverbanks that overflow and leave that alluvial soil for the vineyards. It's a dry area. It's rocky. It's hilly. The microclimates really are good for the wines, but they're hot during the day and cool at night, so they do get some rest time. So they do produce wines that are full flavored, pretty intense, and that citrus minerality, along with any softer fruit flavors, not defined fruit like when you think of Chardonnay and you're going to get a melon texture, or peach, or some over-driving fruit. These are very much more subtle.
Interesting. So you get a taste of Vesuvius even today.
Today.
Great. Well, thanks. It's been great. Thanks for joining us, and
Thank you.
See you next time.
All righty.